Good afternoon, everyone. It's Meteorologist Joe Cioffi here as we continue to monitor the progress of Category 4 Hurricane Irma. And we're going to show you here on the latest radar loop. The eye is getting now very, very close to the Naples, Fort Myers, Everglades City, right in that zone. And in fact, just in the last box there, we look like we might have a tornado warning that is up for that. Well, I'm sorry, let me take that back. That's that excessive wind warning. And you can see on the north side of the eye on the radar is a band of very intense squalls that are getting ready to move inland in the next couple of hours. And we're going to see some pretty fierce wind gusts from that. Bands continue to sweep over into southeast Florida up through the Miami, Dade County area. And when we check the radars further north, we're going to see also over Fort Lauderdale and beyond. And on the south side, the eye is opened up a little bit. And we've got the Keys now getting west winds. And we'll take a look at what the observations show in just a second. Let's go to the Miami radar here at this point, and you can see the eye from the perspective of the Miami radar, which is sitting right there. And you can see Everglades City, Naples, Fort Myers, all in here. They're going to get the eye as it goes by. The eye looks like it will pass. It's moving on a course. Looks like maybe a slight west jog in the last frame there. Hard to tell with just one frame. But overall, the motion has been pretty much straight north. And it's coming into the coast perhaps a little bit further east than some of what the last-minute model guidance was showing yesterday. So the landfall is going to be occurring in the next few hours. And we can see the bands that are the band has now moved over one band over Miami, and then this stronger band that's just to the southwest of it with some heavy squalls embedded in there as well. Further north, we'll check out the Tampa Bay radar, and we're starting to get a strong band now that's between Fort Myers and Sarasota. Just went through the Port Charlotte area, and that's moving northwestward. And you can see the rain coverage back to the east coast toward Melbourne, and with rain on up to Daytona Beach. And I do have the Jacksonville radar here somewhere, and we'll take a look at that. Here we go. And there's the view from the Jacksonville radar as the bands are sweeping in from the east off the Atlantic. At least at the moment, we're not seeing, as of 12:34 p.m. Eastern Time, not seeing any tornado warnings. But I suspect that once that eye gets on shore, and as we go through the afternoon and into this evening, we're probably going to see tornado warnings beginning to pop up. Now, the last recon check, and let me get to that. Here's the last recon check as we're doing multiple passes. The pressure has come up just a little bit to 934 millibars. We're still getting large bands of winds between 96 and 113 knots. So we could probably, that's at flight level, so we could probably translate down to about 90 to 110 miles an hour at the surface, sustained winds. And he's about to make another pass through, as you can see here, the plane icon flying down. And all of this, by the way, in the reds, as you look at the scale below, the winds of 55, 60 knots extend very far out to the center, and the hurricane force winds on this fly through went out well off the southeast coast of Florida, where, by the way, Miami is getting inundated now with storm surge that is coming in. There's water all over downtown Miami from this. Here's the view from the satellite loop. You can still pick out the eye very well. And you can see that motion on the satellite loop kind of take a little jog there to the west from its due north motion. But that could be just a temporary jog as it interacts with the land. The satellite presentation is still rather impressive here. So we have every bit of a Category 4 hurricane. and we'll pop it up on the visible satellite view. And there we go. And you can follow that eye along. You can still see it. There's a little cloudiness over it, over the middle, but the eye's still pretty well defined. It's sitting over 90-degree water there in that southwest corner. There is a bit of a warm eddy, so that might be compensating somewhat for the beginnings of the circulation interacting with some of that land, although that land in South Florida is very, very low, very flat, and rather swampy. So I think the impact on the hurricane in terms of strength is probably minimal. And you see that jog on the eye. You see how it just kind of jogs a little bit toward the northwest there, just in the last few frames. So it's probably going to make that course over toward Naples, Fort Myers, Port Charlotte during the course of the afternoon. So why don't we take a look and see if this interactive map will show us some of the winds that are going on at the moment. And we'll get this interactive tool up so I can take a look at some of the observations we have. So you can see the winds, down off Key Largo have turned southeast now, 39, gusting to 65. We have a gust here from Fowey Rocks, 77, sustained hurricane force winds of 77, gusting to 92. We have gusts to 90 miles an hour at these inland stations, Cache, or however we say that, 55, gusting to 84, which was their peak wind that was reported. Further up the coast in the Keys, we're getting gusts to 55. So they're past at least the Key West is 41 from the west-southwest, gusting to 55 as the wind comes the other way. And Vaca Key is 30, gusting to 54. They're going to get rocked for quite a while. On up the coast we go toward the Miami-Dade County area, the airport. See if I can get Miami International Airport's reporters on one of these barbs here. I'm not sure which one it is, but we don't seem to be able to pull up these individual reports of some of these locations. But you see the gusts are here, 73, 63, 62. We've had 90 to 100 mile an hour wind gusts, and they're going to get some strong gusts as these bands continue to move on up toward the north. And we're now starting to see on the west coast with the eye approaching, the winds have picked up considerably on the west coast with gusts to 70, gusts to 49. This is in and around the Naples area, gusts to 52. This is Nears Meteorological Station at Rookery Bay, 29, gusting to 52. Inland stations are gusting to 40 and 55 miles an hour in many locations. Looks like the map's trying to freshen up just a little bit with a new radar view. So we'll see if we can get this to point out which station that is, because it wanted to tell me, but it's not. I can't always pull up the station identifiers here because some of these are National Weather Service stations, but a lot of these are also weather observer stations, and they don't all have identifiers. And then, we get further up the coast toward the Fort Myers area. We'll see if they put the plots down. We're starting to get the gusts up to gale force. And these winds are going to increase in a serious way as we move through the rest of this afternoon. So just a very, very active, and this hurricane is formidable as it continues to move on up toward the north. Let's move on now. We'll go to the weather models here. We'll take a look at what the GFS is doing this afternoon with this. And we should point out that the hurricane, because it's weakening slowly, we actually have tropical storm warnings up as far north as Atlanta, Georgia, where for the first time ever they actually have tropical storm warnings up for Atlanta for the possibility of gale force winds. And I think that that's a reasonable thing to expect. Let me start from the beginning here on the new GFS. And when it wants to. There we go. Just going to take a second to load, folks. The traffic on the internet is very busy right now with tropical tidbits. So excuse the black screen. We are just waiting for this thing to load, and it's trying. Let me just try it again. See if we can get this to load again. And there must be an issue with tropical tidbits at the moment, so we're not able. Oh, here we go. So just being very, very slow on the uptick here, and we'll get to the GFS. Put up the southeast region, and I'm sure you just saw that shot real quick with Jose, and we'll deal with that momentarily as well. We'll see what that's going to do. Okay, so here we are on the first frame, and it is on land. So this is for, let me just make sure I got the time straight. So this is actually for 8 p.m. tonight is the first time frame. It's on the 12 hour, so I'll just go back one to the 6 hour, which is for 2 o'clock this afternoon. And we have the hurricane with the pressure very close to what it is now being reported by the reconnaissance aircraft at 933 millibars. This is showing, by the way, the extent of the rain area, so we'll do that first. And you can see the heavy rains that move northward. We're now into 2 a.m. Monday with the center just to the east of Tampa St. Pete. This is going to weaken very, very slowly, and then moving just inland of the coast northwest. So at this point, there's going to be a tropical storm force winds well inland. You know, the gradient stays pretty tight with this for a long period of time, and then all this heavy rain that moves through the state of Georgia and on up through North Georgia, and then gradually as the center of the low moves into northern Alabama by early Tuesday morning, you start to see things begin to wind down. So at least this is not going to be something that's going to sit over those southern mountains for any length of time. You'll get your rain. Some of it will be on the heavy side, of course, and there will be some amounts maybe into the 3 to 6 inch range, but it's not going to be rainfall amounts totaling 3 to 6 feet like we had down in the Houston area from Hurricane Harvey. So let's look at the wind profile now, and you have hurricane force winds on both coasts continuing through this evening, spreading up the coast and also into inland areas. There will be hurricane force winds with the center not that far inland. And then gradually, as we move into Monday, we start to see the area of the strongest winds diminish. But you can see it's still pretty windy across much of Georgia with sustained winds to gale force being indicated here in and around the low center. So this is probably going to hold its identity as a tropical storm for a long period of time. But by late Monday afternoon, the winds begin to diminish fairly rapidly as the storm starts to interact with the higher terrain in the southern Appalachians, and the wind becomes less of an issue. And of course, you can see Jose on the corner of the screen of this view. And we'll, real fast, I'll change regions and we'll look at it from the vantage point of the Western Atlantic. Jose is going to do this loop because of the fact that the upper air steering winds are going to be collapsing. It is tied to Irma at the moment, so it continues on this course toward the northwest. It's not impacting any land at the moment, nor will it be for quite a while. You can watch once Irma goes inland and northwest, it releases its grip. Jose turns to the east, southeast, south, and then southwest and strengthens, and then heads back toward the northeastern Bahamas by the end of the week. So this is going to be something we're going to have to watch. Now, we're getting into the period in the long range now where things are going to get squirrely. So please do not use this as a point of reference of let's say, definitiveness. The model loops it around, brings it very close to the Carolinas, and then moves it northeastward from there. Now, that is now we're in the land of pure speculation here, as that I've indicated, and I want to emphasize this again and again. With respect to the long range after day 5, you start to get wider and wider variations. This is not to be taken seriously until we get inside at least the 7-day range and possibly inside the 5-day range. And the model is going to continue to do all sorts of squirrely solutions with this. And bear in mind that the most likely thing that will happen in a situation like this is usually that it might do a loop, but the odds would strongly favor in this instance an out to sea solution. So just let me be very clear on that. So I'm going to come on screen now and address some of you folks in the chat, which is relatively active. So a good afternoon to everybody here, and give you a collective all good afternoon. Raymond, Cynthia, Dio is here, Joyce. We have a number, Earl, Lidl, a number of the usuals, which is wonderful. Eric P. And others. So if I missed you, I'm really sorry, but I do extend a hello to you. So Thomas, you just heard me about what I said with respect to Jose. So we got that done, and we'll wait to see what the European does with that, of course. The pugilist, you finally caught the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and be safe there in Brevard County. I'm just running through the runs. So Raymond, you're right. The GFS, again, we need to just kind of look at it in a very broad perspective at this point and not take it overly serious in the long range. But the loop is going to happen. The upper air collapses, and the loop is definitely going to happen. Marlon Reed, a good day to you. Alec Feliciano, good day to you. Collective thank you to those of you along the way that have gone into Super Chat and bought me a cup of coffee or a cigar. I really appreciate that very much. What are my Marlon Reed? My I assume you mean my thoughts on the hurricane season, being still active into October. I'm usually of the view that patterns, you stick with them until they show signs of breaking. And right now, the hurricane season is very obviously very active. Can you think about the fact that a month ago, a lot of you folks were saying how inactive it was, which was pretty much in line with what it should have been during that time. And suddenly, as we got toward the end of August, everything just exploded. And we'll probably see the activity continue with some ebbs and flows as we go into the first half of October. I would not be at all surprised if we wind up seeing another major hurricane along the way. And by the way, Jose, I believe still, I haven't even checked on the advisories yet. I mean, that's how, the focus has been on Irma, that really have not spent too much time with respect to Jose. So I'll just punch up the advisory here, and we'll take a look at what it says with regards to Jose. And I'm just also quickly looking because of the system off the African coast. The Hurricane Center says that's showing some signs of organization. Maximum sustained winds on Jose down to 130 miles an hour, moving northwest at 16, passing well north of Puerto Rico, although I'm sure they're continuing to see rough ocean conditions, and that's been nonstop since before Irma arrived. The model, just a quick note with respect to the model discussion on this. The Hurricane Center basically talks about the upper high that's going to be building, and the west-northwest motion. They're basically forecasting a west-northwest motion. And remember, folks, the corrections here with what we've just seen have been further west and south with every run. The GFS has been, pretty much doing that as each run has gone by. So we're going to have to wait and see if those trends continued. Sean, I am going to take a break today. I'm going fishing later this afternoon at about 4 o'clock. So I am going to take a much needed break. Believe me, my mind is fried at this point. Let's see. Yes, Lidl. Most hurricanes do seem to, Lidl Griffin. Most hurricanes do seem to interact with the upper troughs as they move closer to the United States. You're going to start to have impact from the jet stream to the north, and that is, that's how the atmosphere works. And depending on the strength of those troughs, and we're going to have to look at that, or the lack of a trough is also another thing that's important too. If you have a ridge, because all of that is, or high pressure, because that all of that plays into part of the equation. And no, Joyce back, everything is fine. People have been, no one has been mean to me. So I'm going to keep this one short, folks, because football starts at 1 o'clock, and I know some people are going to be watching football this afternoon, and they're probably watching pregame right now. So I just wanted to do this quick update for you. I will probably, I may come back right before I go out to fish and give a quick update around 3:30 or so. And yes, never a dictator. It is. You ask if it's silly to discuss global warming during these storms. Yeah, let's wait. You know what? We'll. You can't look at any one individual or 2 or 3 individual events and say and tie it to global warming. So you know what? Why don't we save that question for after the fact, when everything calms down and the weather is peaceful. We can have a discussion regarding that. And Marlon Reed, the new wave off the African coast does show signs of organization. So I'm going fishing later. I'll be back. Figure around 3:30. I'll give a quick update as the eye nears gets ready to move inland on the south coast. And then after that, a little bit of a break for me, and we'll see what's going on tonight. At some point I got to shut it down for a little while. Thanks, Cynthia. I will definitely try to enjoy my afternoon. In fact, I'm going to make myself a pork tenderloin for lunch, and we will see you a bit later on.